Why don't you tell us who you are and what you do?
Okay, so my name is Simon Wells. Hello.
Hi.
I'm a voiceover artist. So I do voices for all sorts of things. I do company promo videos for their websites and social medias. I do audiobooks. I do e-learning. I do some character work, anything that needs a voice, anything that is disembodied, an animation or whatever it is, anything that needs a voice. I do it. I've done some sleep and meditation apps, where you sort of lean into the mic and speak very softly and relaxing, and please focus on your breath and all that sort of stuff, which is good fun. So that's who I am. That's what I do. It's a really good fun job. It's something I never expected to do. I kind of fell into this by mistake,
Right.
as far as I'm aware. So my background, I used to be a postman, of all things. Not a natural segue from one to the other. But yeah, so I was a postman for almost 20 years, and then I had a back injury, for which the doctors very strongly recommended I shouldn't go carrying 20 kilo sacks of mail over my shoulder all day long following spinal surgery. And then this thing just kind of happened. And I'm glad it did. It's good fun.
Cool. So how about recent memorable jobs that you had?
Okay, so I did... there's quite a variety in this job. Some people just focus on there's a friend of mine who just reads audiobooks. That's his entire thing. There's a guy I know who just does voices for video games, and that's it. I'm sort of a jack of all trades. I'll go wherever the work takes me. So recently I've been doing some e-learning for a company that teaches foreign students English as a foreign language. So I'm teaming up with an American voiceover, and we're sort of meeting online and doing these dialogues, teaching, giving examples of English in the two most prominent accents. So me doing the English accent, them doing the American accent, for these Chinese students learning English, so they can sort of hear both alternatives. And it's quite matter of fact. It's a little bit monotone. You have to give clear enunciation so that they can understand every single word to its clearest possible level. Just before that, I did something completely the opposite. I worked with an author who wrote a book for children that helps children on sort of on the autistic spectrum understand their emotions. And he had a little character that represented every single emotion, and every one of those had to have a different voice. So you had this little fella who sounded a little bit like Alan Bennett, actually, who represented sadness, and then you had this hyper little fella who represented joyfulness, and all these funny character voices coming out. So it's quite a range, it's quite a variety.
Yeah,
no 2 days are the same.
That's really cool.
It's good fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this all came about. There's a voiceover artist called Peter Dixon, who's, most people have not heard his name, but he's the voice of the X Factor, the really shouty chap.
The announcement voice.
The announcement voice,
Right.
yeah. So that's in the industry, that element of voiceover is called the voice of God.
Yeah.
So it's all of those live announcements, live from London, all of that stuff. And he set up a company to teach people to do what he does. And I was unemployed following the back injury thing, and I thought, well, okay, let's give it a shot and see if it leads anywhere. And thankfully it did. It led to the most fun career line I've ever had.
Wow, that's so cool. So do you have like a specific place where people find your work and look to hire you?
Yeah, so there are different ways of going about it. So there are subscription websites like Backstage, Mandy, Badalgo, where people post work and we all audition for it. So someone says, I've got this piece of work, here's a sample of the script, please give me an audition, and then they take whoever they prefer. Personally, I get more work out of networking. So whether that's actual in-person networking events or just having a presence online. You can find me on LinkedIn and Facebook and all those places, or simonwellsvo.com. And I sort of go looking for people. I do a lot of direct mail marketing to companies and offering my services. But yeah, majority of the time, I'm fortunate enough that people just recommend me, people who have worked with me in the past. Someone's talking to them, they need a voiceover, they say, I know a guy. And it's all very natural and organic and relationship based. I like that way of getting work. It feels much easier, much more natural.
Yeah, I kind of want some of that myself.
Stick with me, kid.
Yeah, it's been hard to get out of any sort of office format jobs for me because of my IT, like my skills are more IT.
Yeah.
And although I have like some vocal experience from performing or singing, I've never felt like I knew the way in to try anything else, like voiceover, whatever it is. I thought, fine, I've got a microphone, I can at least audition and see if they like my voice.
Yeah.
So I don't even know if I'm any good.
Well, that's the thing. You don't know if you're good at these things until you try it. You sort of have to test the waters and see what happens. I don't think I would ever. I've always enjoyed using my voice. I have a 13-year-old son. I'll always read a storybook to him with character voices. I'll always sort of be doing impressions and accents. I love doing accents. But I would never have left my nice, comfortable office job in search of doing that as a career, because it's scary, isn't it? Trying to move out and do something on your own is quite terrifying at first, because there's no guarantee you're going to make it work. You just have to take a leap of faith and see where you land.
Leap of faith is the word for me. It's a very interesting moment in time for us, but this is actually the birth of a new project.
Yes, an exciting new era.
We officially do not have a name yet.
Ah, okay.
Because I've decided that it doesn't make sense to be part of the Tech Tips channel, which is what I've been filming recently.
Right.
It's got a life of its own, this podcast. So I want to let it be whatever it's going to be. And I almost feel like it's a cat hiding behind the sofa, refusing to come out. The name of the podcast is like, just come. I know you exist. So it'll get there, I think.
Have you got? Do we need to sort of work on a particular theme? So there's a bit of chat about tech. Are you looking down any particular? Have you got like a lineup of people who would like to get this kind of person on this and that kind of person? Is there a theme?
Well, I definitely want to geek out on gear.
Okay.
So microphones, for example, would be the geek moment that we could, use this time. But I think I'm sort of open to. Here's the thing: the first person I invited is a coder.
Okay. Right.
And our conversation would be a lot more IT related. But interestingly, we're friends, and we end up always talking about deeper things or more interesting things than just code.
Yeah.
So, for example, he wants to use his skills and make something outside of a normal day job. He wants to make a business or do something with it. So now he's looking at how can he apply his skills in areas that might need it. And I told him one area that definitely could do with some interesting work is audio software.
Okay, yeah.
So if you can get into that, you can, I don't know what you could potentially make an EQ or a compressor or something, a plugin that is just very different from everything else.
Right, okay, yeah.
And people just flock to it because if it's got some special sound, that's what sells, that would have been maybe where we could have gone in that conversation.
Yeah, yeah.
So if anything from IT, very technical, to gear, to general life, to be honest. Because I think what I realized when I was doing videos, the first videos I did were about like psychological state when you're at work, stress at work, disrespected at work.
Yeah.
How do you deal with all these things?
Yeah.
That quickly comes out of the realm of talking technical. All of a sudden I'm talking about, this is philosophical. This is, you have to deal with your own human needs and requirements.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So I really don't feel like I can stick to the original, list of microphones, whatever else, tripods, who knows what it would be.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, we're all engaged in real life. Whatever we do for a living, however we're connected to each other, we're all just people trying to get along in the world. We've all got our successes and our failures, and the things that drive us and the things that stress us out.
Yeah.
I'm part of a little peer-to-peer group. We meet once a month and we just talk about work. You know, how are you finding the industry? We're all involved in the creative industries, and we're sort of talking, you know, how are you finding work at the moment? How, you know, is the industry working well for you? Are you struggling? And there just happened to be an episode of that. Well, it gets turned into a podcast, but there happened to be one session of that fell on Mental Health Awareness Week, and purely by fluke, the people who turned up for that meeting all happened to be blokes. There's usually sort of a nice even split. This particular occasion, it all happened to be blokes. So we had this online chat with like 8 blokes, all involved in the creative industries, on Mental Health Awareness Week. And therefore, that's the line that conversation took. We were just going to talk about, hey, how are the creative industries these days? And slowly, bit by bit, we all started talking about our various mental health struggles. 7 out of the 8 people on that chat admitted to having some kind of mental health struggle in their day-to-day life. And we didn't sit down with the purpose of bringing that out, but it just naturally came about. So yeah, you can start off with a nicely defined gender agenda. You know, I'm going to sit here and talk about microphones, and it could end up talking about all kinds of philosophical stuff and all sorts. You know, it could go down any avenue.
I'm laughing because the other day I did I'll have to show you the blooper later. I was trying to say philosophical, and it didn't come out right, and I couldn't rescue it.
Yeah.
So I was just stuck in philosophy. And then like for a minute after, every new take, I can't stop laughing. Sorry, it's too funny.
I've started having problems with the word about recently.
Interesting.
I just said it perfectly. But a few times in scripts recently, I've been double bouncing the B. I've been saying about.
Oh, wow.
And once you, like you say, once you get into that, once you've heard it the wrong way, it's really hard to get out of it again.
Yeah. It's amazing actually how that works. So even sometimes like looking at one word over and over and over and over again, eventually it's like, is that even how you say it, how you write it? That looks wrong now.
Yes.
You know, it's any word, it doesn't matter.
Yes.
It's just like,
suddenly
it's too, I don't know, how does that work? There's got to be a word for it. A scientific something.
I did I do quite a lot of vocal warm-ups and tongue twisters and things when I'm about to sit down and read a script. I have the luxury of being my own director. You know, in the voiceover business, we're our own director, our own producer, our own everything, and therefore you have the luxury of being able to do as many takes as it needs. But it's always nicer if you can get it right first time. It just feels better. And I had a script I was reading a little while ago, had the word pharmaceutical in it. And it repeated quite a lot, you know, pharmaceutical this, pharmaceutical that. And after a number of repetitions, like you just said, I was looking at the script going, that's a real word, right? Pharmaceutical. That doesn't sound real anymore. That sounds made up. Yeah.
So we were talking about words and do they even look real after a while?
Yeah.
And sometimes I find myself, if I've never had to actually record a word, I've never actually said it in a microphone before, I have to actually take a moment and say it a few times.
Yes.
And, you know, Amazon, Amazon.
Yes,
you know,
what's the correct pronunciation of it? Yeah. I have a client that I do some work for in China, and there are an awful lot of place names that I have to keep on saying, and I haven't got a clue how they're supposed to be pronounced. So I take a quick break and go on YouTube and sort of hear how they're pronounced properly, so that I can actually do it justice. Some clients can be quite specific about how they want words pronounced. They've got it in their head. You know, that's the way we want it to sound. Even if that's not your own natural native pronunciation, you still sort of have to go with what the client wants. Really, it's Singapore, not Singapore. Okay, that's different.
Oh my God, that was a really good one of those in There's this comedy called Motherland on Netflix, I think. Very British one. And there's this guy in there. He's like one of those stay-at-home dads types. Yeah. And he's trying to get something for his kid, and he goes, "My son wants Minecraft."
Minecraft.
Why are you saying it like that? It's not a Nazi thing, dude.
Oh, excellent.
That's a good show. It's fun. It's painful.
Okay.
It's like torture because have you heard of 30 Rock?
Yeah.
So there's like the main character in Motherland is like Liz Lemon, the British Liz Lemon.
Oh, okay. All right.
And she's wound up like a lemon, really tight. Yeah. So everything is just impossible and painful for the viewer. You're like, oh my God, this woman, everything is so painful. But eventually it gets like, you can start to really enjoy that. So
I'll check that out.
It's one season or two.
Okay, that sounds all right. I struggle sometimes to watch certain programs just because having been in this business for a while, I really analyze speech and pronunciation. I watched a really good documentary on Netflix about the American history, and it had beautiful aerial shots across landscapes of America, and it had this guy talking about the history and the culture and so on. Really fascinating program, but the guy's voice really irked me. And I got 2 episodes in and I was like, I can't commit any more time to this because the guy's voice is really annoying me. So it might have been a really good show, but I couldn't stick with it. And as you took a call there, call centers, answer machine messages as well. Whenever I phone a company, if they're using AI to tell me that my call is important to them, so important that they're using a robot to tell me. A few times now, I've actually sort of sent an email to the company and said, can't help noticing you're using AI. Do you think you'd benefit from using a human voice? Because it relates to the customers, builds trust. And I've actually got a couple of gigs that way, just nice. Making contact with them.
That's a good yeah. I'm trying so hard to think of ways to get into some business ideas. And the next thing you know, you just hear from the weirdest places, some like random YouTube video with hardly any views. I'll just say, I did this and got all this business. And I'm like, whoa. That would work.
It's a weird world. Social selling is such a thing now. Entire businesses are, again, just from a LinkedIn presence or whatever. It's sometimes quite hard to predict what's going to make a good post. I've put posts on LinkedIn that was so deep and philosophical and talked about the trials and tribulations of running your own company. And I thought it was really going to go somewhere. It got a couple of 100 views and that was it. I put up a post saying, look at my cat. And it gets hundreds of thousands of views. And you just think, why am I bothering to craft this really eloquent stuff when all it takes is a picture of a cat? It's sometimes quite hard to predict what's going to take off and what's not.
Yeah.
We started to talk about audio software.
Yeah.
I'd imagine the audio software you use is quite different from what I use. So I use Reaper to record my audio on, which I find funny. These bits of software are called DAW, D-A-W, Digital Audio Workstation. And the first time I ever heard someone talking about these things, they were saying, I just opened my door and started recording. I thought, why is everyone talking about opening doors in order to record? Surely you want to shut your door to keep the noise out. And then I realized what they were talking about and I felt like an idiot.
It's an easy mistake to make. My friend the other day, he's been making music for a decade or longer. He's like, what is a DAW?
Really? Still?
Like, it's Logic, the thing you're using. Logic, that's So they just don't use the term. That term's used.
Do you have a personal allegiance to one bit of software over another?
Oh God, the way you phrase that question.
I'm a Reaper man through and through. I've tried Logic, I've tried Audition, and
the struggle is real apparently, but in the DAW community.
You're not going to tell me you're an Audacity user, are you? I might have to walk out right now. That's it. Cut.
I've had to at times. I've been a Pro Tools admirer and user for many years, since the first thing I ever got was an M-Box.
Oh yeah, yeah.
In the early 2000s.
Yeah.
2001 or something.
Yeah.
And it came with Pro Tools.
Yeah.
It was, for me, it was a case of I had some studio experience and I saw Pro Tools in there and I thought, okay, so if I want to do the pro stuff, I'm going to have to be fluent in the software they use.
Yeah.
So I'll just go straight to Pro Tools then.
Yeah.
No problem. I've watched them doing it.
Yeah.
Using it. So I tried that. I had that for a while and it's excellent, but it didn't take long for the software to need updates.
Yes.
The PC to need updates.
Yes.
And then because the tech moves so fast,
Yeah.
either the interface was great, but I couldn't run Pro Tools anymore because a bunch of updates somehow changed the fact that it could run.
Right.
Right. It was running last week. Now it's not because Windows updates did something silly like that. So then I decided to realize I was going to try a few other things. Tried Cubase, tried Logic when it was still available on PC. Reaper I've installed, but I couldn't get it working, so I just uninstalled it again at the time. And anyway, that was many years ago when I first touched Pro Tools to start. And then I took a long break, had a family, all that stuff.
All those things that get in the way.
Everything was packed up. The M-Box was just sitting somewhere.
Yeah.
And I think at some point last year, I got it all out again. And the M-Box was just dead.
Oh.
Probably from moisture. But I mean, it had a very 20-year long run.
Rest in peace, M-Box.
So I thought, well, that thing did great, but it's time to move on. And little did I realize that the changes since then, the converters, the preamps, everything has just shot up so high that M-Box was inferior.
Yeah.
So funny enough, I recorded Pro Tools when I'm in the studio, but nowadays I'm using this little field recorder.
This thing's amazing.
It's just shockingly, it's like, if you're a video person or if you're a sound guy for movie shoots and stuff, this is like a super cute mini one for what they have.
Yeah.
They have the at least 8 channels, I think. And,
right.
The bag's bigger and all that stuff. But the actual interface is so great and you can just record directly to it, 4 channels, and they come out as separate WAV files.
Nice.
Unless you want to do it differently. But yeah, you can have them as separate WAV files straight in. So as soon as I get home, I just get the SD card from the camera, SD card from the audio.
Yeah. That's beautiful. It's a lovely little bit of kit. I don't know if hopefully the viewers will get a chance to see it, but this is a fantastic piece of kit, all sort of strapped up in a little portable bag. It's like if you went back, sort of 30 years or so and thought about how much recording equipment you'd need to take around with you, this is phenomenal. It's so compact.
Yeah, it's really great.
What I had to switch my going back to Allegiance again. I've always been a Windows man. I switched to Apple.
Oh God Almighty!
Sorry, purely because I can't have any mechanical noise in my recording space. So I sit in a almost soundproof, not quite soundproof. I'm told the only thing that is purely soundproof is a nuclear bunker, and I can't afford one of those. But I have a sound booth in my house, which is about the shape and size of a phone box. Yeah, so I record in a sound booth, and everything needs to be as quiet as possible. So the booth is sealed up. Once I've shut the door, it's incredibly quiet, and there's all sort of acoustic foam and padding inside to make it a nice acoustically pleasant environment. And laptops have fans by and large, and the mic I use. So I use, if we're going to get geeky, I've got a couple of mics. I have a Rode NT1A, which is a large diaphragm condenser mic, which is sort of fairly standard for our industry. I've also got a really nice Neumann U87 AI, which I love dearly. It's quite expensive, so I didn't bring it with me. And they just pick up everything. They pick up every breath, every crackle in your voice. It's so high definition. It's beautiful. and therefore you can't have any mechanical sound in the box with you because it will just pick it up. So I had to move to Apple purely because I've got a MacBook Air, which is silent as silent can be. It's the only Apple product I own. I haven't fully jumped ship to Apple, but that's a really nice product that I kind of have to use. But when I started off, so I was using, actually I started off with an M-Box, like you said, I started off with an M-Box Mini. And in the very early days, I just had a sort of a portable duvet fort in my lounge that I started recording from. So I had my laptop outside of the fort with a remote cable to a TV screen inside the fort so that I could distance myself from the sound of the laptop. But then once I'd cut my teeth a little bit and started getting better, and I needed to upgrade the equipment to meet my ability, I guess. And then the proper sound booth came along, and then I needed a silent laptop. So a little piece of me died when I purchased that Apple product, but there we go.
Yeah.
If I've got a Samsung phone, I've got an Apple laptop, I've got a Microsoft Surface. If all of these things can live together in harmony, we'd all be better off.
Yeah, I wish that I wanted to find something to like about Apple. I always knew that I may have to get a big tower or something for the studio.
Yeah.
But the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, now, okay, things have changed since I watched the movie. I watched the movie and I thought, this Steve Jobs guy is annoying me. He's insisting on taking the technology the way it should not go, in my opinion, anyway.
Right.
It should be closed end to end. That's what he wanted. Only Apple Mac users can talk to other Apple Mac users.
You have to buy an Apple charger. You have to communicate with Apple phones linked to your Apple computer. Yeah. That's what put me off as well.
It rubbed me up wrong, and I was like, "Why would you do that?" And then his main guy, Wozniak, was like, "No, the complete opposite. We need the complete opposite. Let them change everything if they want." So that annoyed me. But then now, I think slowly, now that I've caught onto some of his more appealing parts, character traits and stuff, he sort of had a good way of converting his passion into something that could benefit other people.
Yeah.
That's not easy to do.
Yeah.
Like even Elon Musk, he makes nice cars, but until Neuralink comes out or something, it's not, you can't really say he's helping people. Everything he's doing is just like for flourishing sake, it's not really making life easier for people day to day. No one's got a device that Elon's made that everyone's holding or anything. So you can't knock that. You can't knock that success.
Yeah, I remember when when iPhones first started coming out, and it just looked like such a futuristic thing. I remember the first device I saw without physical buttons on it, and I thought, man, the future is here.
Yeah,
and I can't really think how long ago that was. I'm getting on a bit now. That was probably longer ago than I think it was. But it seems like such a blip in the timeline that we've gone from, an old black and white Nokia that you used to play Snake on with physical buttons, to now, what's a button? You ask the current generation what a phone looks like. No one's going to draw a phone with a button on it. No. That's archaic.
Yeah. It's crazy.
It's such the standard now.
I think it's coming back though. Funny enough, the retro phones. People are, I don't know why. Like in almost every show I watch, it's one of those old school flip phones.
Oh, flip phones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello.
Matrix style.
No one got the memo in the movie business. Or I have a theory, because basically I'm pretty sure every single time I've ever seen a lighter.
Right.
In any entertainment, it's always a Zippo.
Always a Zippo, yes.
Yeah. And I get why. Like, it's got a character to it, it's got sound to it and everything. But when I don't know. It's like maybe they'll catch on and do the same thing with other things.
Thing is, though, there's just something. maybe it's because all of those movies that we watched as kids are American, and therefore that's the American standard. If you had a really, really cool action hero walking in slow-mo into shot, and let's say there's a trail of petrol on the floor and he needs to set fire to it because that's what action heroes do. If you pulled out a little standard like Bic, £2.50 cheap lighter that you get from the newsagents, and you take several strikes to get it started, and you have to bend down and light it's not going to look as cool as just pinging open a Zippo and chucking it on the floor.
It does look
It's all about the cool factor.
I wasn't going to get into this, but you've now raised it out of me. And it's going to be a good clip. Annoying things about movies. Right?
Oh, okay.
First thing that comes to mind.
Yeah.
Bloody shoes on the bed. What the hell is wrong with you people?
Right.
They always just get on bed with their outside shoes on.
Yeah, they do.
And I'm on the sofa going, whoa, what have you done? Now you got to clean the whole bed. Oh, God.
It's the cool factor again, isn't it? It's uncool to watch a movie star untie their laces and take the shoe off and place it on the floor and all that sort of stuff.
It kind of takes me out of it, though.
Yeah, do you think?
Because like I'm trying to immerse myself in the show. I'm not one of those people that try and do a million things. I'm like trying to get into the show or the movie. And if they walk into their house and they walk into their bedroom, I'm with them at that moment.
Yes. Okay.
I'm probably barefoot if it was me in real life, or definitely no shoes. Right. But then I suddenly see their outside shoes on, still in the bedroom, and then they get in bed with it,
and then you can't believe the rest of the movie.
Yeah, exactly. Then I'm out already. I'm like, he just ruined it. That's one of the things you shouldn't compromise on.
Brilliant.
And it's very rare to actually see just that basic thing of take your shoes off, or at least act like it's your actual house.
Yes, the realism. We want to see the grit.
Like I can imagine these very wealthy actors doing these parts going, I'm doing something I would never do.
My artistic integrity is being spoiled. You're asking me to get onto a bed with shoes.
Yeah, exactly.
How dare you?
Okay, it's better on camera, but I would never do this.
So what else? Actually, having mentioned the old Zippo lighter setting fire to a trail of petrol, apparently that doesn't work. If you just scatter petrol on the ground, it's too mixed in with the air, and the fumes aren't strong enough to actually set fire to. If you did that trick of dropping a Zippo on a trail of petrol, apparently it doesn't work. That's another thing that's at least one of the Lethal Weapon movies blown completely out of the window by science right there.
So we should go to a petrol station and find the sign and excuse me.
Yes, exactly.
It's not right.
It's not working.
Not correct.
Yeah.
Just look, I'm going to look, lights everywhere, nothing.
It's the wrong kind of fuel.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It's like, that's the one thing that's been on my mind for a while is the shoes on the bed thing.
Yeah.
But there are a few others that they, I don't know. I think generally entertainment's pretty damn good. No one's really, we've come to a great place. Oh, I'll tell you one funny one. When they over abuse the skill of the video editing or the skill of the filmography. Yeah. So we were watching Mad Max the other day.
Right.
And the color temperatures and the white balance, every scene is like a different planet.
Right.
And a different season and a different, it's like red, all red.
Yes.
Next one, blue and gray. It's so drastic, so insanely drastic.
Yeah.
That it's almost gets to the point of uncanny feeling, almost like when you're watching something that's not real, or a CGI thing.
Yeah. Okay.
And you're I didn't know.
It's too disjointed.
I didn't really want to. Yeah. That's kind of where it's going. We're okay, I get it. I know you can do these things, but or even here's one serious one: the fully black screens that go on forever.
Yeah.
In these episodes.
Yeah.
And you have just one wisp of white here, and you basically can't see what they're doing. There's no point even doing it.
Yeah.
It really is as 3 seconds of just screaming and nothing, shouting, and then we see another scene that's some sort of clue as to what's happened.
Yeah.
Why are they doing that?
Just because they can.
I know, because they're like, look how black my camera can go.
Yeah.
You know, okay, but
that's only impressive if you've got a TV that can match that ability. You know, you watch something that's an entirely black scene on a low res TV, and it's like, well, that's just wasted on me. That all I'm seeing is charcoal. You know, that's not black.
it's just totally hard. It's I don't understand why you would not want people to see the thing you're filming.
Yeah.
When it's so bad that you can't even tell who's on the screen. It's like it's almost badly filmed. Is that? I don't know.
Yeah.
If I can say it, because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not one of those
it's interesting,
guys.
isn't it, that we sort of take our own. You know, so for you, it's visual stuff. You'll be watching a movie and you'll be paying attention to the color temperature and the camera angles and all those sorts of things. I'll be watching a movie, listening to the audio and the enunciation and you know, how far that person is away from the boom mic and all this sort of stuff. It's you pick these things apart, don't you? If you watch them often enough. I'm a terrible person to watch adverts with or listen to radio ads, especially because there's a trend at the moment for things to be more realistic. You're getting a lot more regional accents. You're getting a lot more people. I went to the cinema a couple of weeks ago, for instance, with my son. And, you know, the big boomy voice that comes over that says, "Turn off your mobile phone. It's dark in here. No one wants to see your screen. It's all very epic and exciting," and, you know, all that sort of stuff. And now it's just some kid going, "All right, just turn off your phone, all right? Because just watch the film." And it doesn't sound anywhere near as impressive, but there's a trend for more realism, more everyday voice. Apparently, it's more you can relate to it more because it's more normal. But I don't know. I like the old epic stuff.
One thing I need is a drummer.
Okay.
Because I have a project coming up that's like a metal music.
No.
Which it needs. You really need a drummer that likes that music,
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Not just they can play it.
Yeah.
And I had a friend who was extremely skilled, but he's not a metal fan.
Right.
And anyway, he's not free. So
Okay.
I thought, right, let me go to Fiverr, let me see who's there. And then what ended up happening is I auditioned about 10 metal drummers.
Okay.
Just by, so let's play, this guy's video.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I can hear him playing. Okay.
Yeah.
I get everything I need.
Yeah.
To make a decision. I like how he plays. I think it will work with my music. Okay, next. Let's try the next one. And just go through all of them. And wow, I just auditioned 10 drummers. Now I can just think about which one I prefer and speak to them.
Yeah.
So I think in that sense, it's invaluable.
Yeah.
That only took me, 20 minutes?
Yeah.
And I'm so, I'm prepared to make a decision now.
Yeah. Brilliant. I think it's a great platform for the people who are commissioning work. There's never been an easier time to find the right person. For the artist, it's never been a harder time in some respects because there are so many competitors out there. There are so many other people doing the same thing that you're doing. We're constantly having to find new, better, more unique, more individual ways of doing it in order for our heads to sort of pop up above water. But yeah, it's certainly an easier time for the client. Certainly, yeah.
Yeah. I guess I have been wondering what else we can do really for how us artists can do better. Or I like these the busking guys have a tap.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
That's awesome. The first time I saw that, I thought, well, on the one hand, I thought, oh, that's new and clever. But then simultaneously, I thought, well, duh, obviously, that should always have been a thing. You can pay for any other service by tapping your card. Why has it taken so long for that to come along? Yeah. It's brilliant. Anyone can get one of these things and hook it up to your phone and away you go. It's probably great for them because it means that there's like a minimum charge, isn't it? You can't just walk past and throw a 2p coin into the hat anymore. You actually have to be more deliberate and more intentional about it, and that's got to be good for them.
Yeah, I'm happy for that.
That's really nice. Nice development.
Yeah. can't think of. Well, the whole selling your beats, selling your. There's not much there. Like there's for people who just make beats.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, there is a place to sell it, but there's a lot of people there.
Yeah.
And I think music is the most. Well, maybe not the most, but one of the most I've come across, competitive wise, the most intense. Because you can make a good song. You can have a good song that if you played it just you and a guitar would sound great and is a good song by definition. But then if you try and make that into a song that's acceptable to current modern ears, it's like going to a place you thought would be empty and then you find a queue for hours. You know, it's like, oh, okay, so it's not that simple. Yeah. You know, there's a whole, you have to do something to get their attention within the music itself. Yeah. So you can't just have a nice song. You have to have some gimmick or something, some flair, something that brings you back, that shows your artistry, right? So I guess that's what I mean. Is artistry is a, without checking Google what it means, I would guess it means you're contributing in some way to the current space. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you're not just coming out of nowhere with a nice song that's, you know, it's got all the right chords and all the right stuff in it, but actually when you hear it now, it doesn't mean anything to anyone because it's sort of like, you know, for example, I guess Somewhere Over the Rainbow. Yeah. Okay. Because it's so beautifully sweet, it just about gets away with being one of those guitar songs that you could just, you know, it could exist at any moment.
Oh, that ukulele version, wasn't there?
Or the ukulele version, yeah. That version is amazing as well. Yeah. But it's just because as a song, it's got enough, like, there's no need to do more to it. Yeah. Okay, you know, it's timeless in that way. Yeah. But if you have any other song that's in that style, that doesn't have that built-in spirit, that character, you're gonna have to give it to it some other way. Yeah, you have to inject it. You know, it's like a donut with no jam.
I wonder if we're getting to a point now where there have been, purely by virtue of the passage of time, there are so many excellent songs, excellent artists, musicians that have gone before. We must be getting to a point where it's harder and harder to make a piece of music that doesn't sound like something that's gone before. There are only a certain number of chords in the world, right? Everyone's going to have taken influence from an artist who's gone before. So to make yourself stand out against that, it must be. I have no musical ability whatsoever, but it must be getting harder and harder to do that.
Yeah, the space is getting more and more crowded as well. So it's a case of if you have an idea. One thing I've realized is if you have an idea, you have to move fast.
Okay, yeah.
Something odd goes on without trying to get spiritual. It's not a spiritual thing necessarily, but it's almost like there's a place where creativity comes from. And if you're tuned into it, and let's say right now, 2023, you know, August, I want to write a song. Right. I go to that place. I come back with a song. If I don't put that song out immediately or as soon as possible, in about a month, you're going to hear some very similar song with similar lyrics, similar melody, and it's almost like someone stole your song. That's happened to me a few times.
Really?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's going to hurt.
Wow. Okay. So everyone can hear it. The thing that I heard. So it's a weird thing that I don't think anyone ever imagined, that your creativity isn't just yours. Right? You're participating in collecting that from some thing, some dimension or whatever it is. It's almost like BFG. You remember BFG, the cartoon, the original one?
I love the BFG. David Jason.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
Brilliant voice.
When he goes to his planet. And he has a net and he jumps up to catch the dreams.
Catching the dreams. Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
That's kind of what it feels like.
Yeah.
It's a place where anyone could actually go, and if you. So yeah, I kind of love that part of creativity and stuff like that. Yeah. There's was it George Harrison who absolutely swore blind when he wrote My Sweet Lord,
that it was entirely original. It bore no resemblance to any other piece of music that had ever been around. But he got embroiled in a huge law case because it sounded so similar to "He's So Fine," the old Motown song. And you play the two together, man, there's some massive similarities there. But like I say, there are only so many notes. There are only so many orders in which you can play notes and have it sound unique. And he swore blind. No, I didn't rip that off at all. That was total individual creation. Sooner or later, things are going to start sounding samey. Even some of the best music in the world these days, I've almost given up listening to modern music because I'm beginning to feel like I've heard it all before.
Right.
That sounds a bit like Radiohead, who in turn sounded a bit like U2, who in turn sounded a bit like whoever else. There are these common threads. So yeah, I think you're right. It's taking more and more effort to be truly unique, truly individual.
I think that's where it almost comes back around to actually it's easy, because if it's not coming from the heart and it's not original and doesn't entertain your close friends or family, then you're not actually, you kind of know already.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you try to build that idea out to as big as it could be, unless you are already some famous person, you can't just churn out these ideas that don't have enough. But then maybe I'm saying too much. Maybe that's not actually what they do. But it feels like that sometimes. Right. Like I hear a song from pick any top 10 artist, basically the next song after their big number. And it's like, but you're riding off the last song.
Off your previous success.
That song on its own didn't really deserve as much as he got. Yeah. It's just because it's you.
You've got a following now. Yeah.
The Drake of the moment. Right. Right. But Drake might not be one of those people because he actually has interesting music. And it's like, as much as I don't personally listen to it, when I listen, I try really hard to appreciate it. I can actually hear, okay, his artistry. His artistry is accurate. It's accurately contributing. So who am I to say?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Whether he's good or
Yeah. I went to see Blur at Wembley about a month ago, and so many of their songs sound, well, they don't sound new. Obviously, they've got that 90s Britpop style to them, but they feel current. They feel relevant. Some of that music, it really has sort of stood the test of time very well. And there was this, I'm a 40 something, and the majority of people in the stadium were 40 somethings, and you could sort of see the look on the people who were reliving this, who were there the first time round. And then you had this little swathe of 20 somethings who were dressed in like ironic retro 90s clothing as if it were old fashioned. I felt incredibly old when I saw this 20-year-old with like a fishing hat and a shell suit on. And I just thought, no one actually dressed like that at the time. You've done a good effort at cosplay there, but it's not authentic. But it hadn't really occurred to me that Blur had a younger following, because these 20-somethings were singing along with those songs, word for word. And I hadn't really realised that would be the case. But then that makes sense, because I'm a fan of the Beatles. I'm not old enough to remember the Beatles first time round, but I love the Beatles. So some of these things do stand the test of time, and they will be followed generation after generation after generation. I don't know whether the likes of, will Ed Sheeran still be being followed by my kids, by my grandkids? Is there something inherently unique enough and of good enough value in modern music that it will still stand that test of time? I'm not so sure. Even my son, who's 13 years old now, he's never heard of some of the absolute greats, because his only experience of music is what appears in memes on YouTube. He doesn't sit and listen to a whole album like I would. I think the experience of music is very different these days. Even to the point of, there was a time when all of an artist's money would be made by selling their songs in an album or as singles. And then once in a while, they might go on tour. nowadays, I don't know how much money you can actually make out of album sales. Artists seem to make most of their money by ticket sales from their tours. That sort of seems to be the main way of doing it. Whether that's the fault of Spotify and other sort of streaming services, I don't know whether artists get as much money per play as they would through album sales. I'm not sure how that bit works, but very different way of doing business now as a musician.
Yeah.
Not that I know, because I'm not one.
I don't really, like I was saying earlier about making money with music, I just never felt the need to, like, actually, I feel like it actually might affect the music.
Right.
If you're doing it for money.
Yeah.
So there's a few ways to see that. Either you're being commissioned, that might be doable, but it still has a different vibe to it completely than creating song for the sake of it.
Yes.
But then also you have people who are in the industry now, they can't remember the last time they made a song for the sake of it.
Right.
Maybe it's just me, I have to get over myself. You want a song that's this fast with these chords? Okay, fine, I guess I can do that. It doesn't feel good. Yeah. It feels like a job, another job, and it's just not creative.
Yeah. But I guess that's the difference between now and then, isn't it? You know, whenever then was for each individual, you know, you can sort of picture, I don't know, Elvis Presley as a teenager just picking up a guitar and writing a song because he felt like it. And then he got spotted and someone saw the value in it and it turned into a career. I don't know why I picked Elvis Presley, but, you know, back in those days, you didn't have career musicians quite like you do these days. Nowadays, you have people who are exactly what you've said. They're making music because they want to be a rich, famous, successful musician. And that creative process must be very different. And I think there are more musicians around as well. You know, even when I was a kid, if you knew a person who could play the guitar well and was in a little local band with some friends, you'd be all, oh, wow, you're in a band, you can play guitar, wow. Now it's like every other person can play a guitar and be in a band and has their own little portable recording studio in front of them, you know. So the pressure is on to do something more unique with it, I guess.
I can't remember his name. I think it's Tim Henson, the guitarist for Polyphia.
Don't know. Don't recognise that.
Polyphia is this new, unbelievably skilled band.
Okay.
But he is like, that kid is like ultra talented, like the next Steve Vai kind of level of guitarist. Okay. Now it feels like if you're a guitarist, they'll be like, do Tim Henson. You can't, you're not. You
right, okay.
You can't even get that. You can't get close to him, you're nothing.
Okay.
You know, but he's spent many years obsessed with creating a new style. Or sort of forming what's now blend of metal and R&B sort of come together, all these different guitar styles put together in this sound that you can't decide. I can't decide what it is. Is it avant-garde metal? Is it rock? But but it's amazing. But yeah, he's pushing it to a point where anyone who's not an actual seasoned, you know, okay, this is a good bass line. This is a good, what's the word? Standard to use. Yeah, good standard to use is if you can hear a guitar solo and your hand can automatically moves to play it,
right? Yeah.
Then you got no chance.
Yeah.
Basically, you got to be that good.
Yeah.
And that's not even. That's just anyone who's been practicing long enough and played scales and, you know, long enough that their muscle memory already picks up where you would technically have to go to make that sound. Right. I'm almost halfway there.
Okay.
So if I hear a solo, my hand's already doing it. I'm like, oh, I heard what he did. Oh, that's hard. Like I already know it's gonna. When I try and play, it's gonna be hard. So but. I mean, it's going to take what? I feel like I need 2 more lifetimes before I get anywhere close, you know? So, yeah.
Well, you're a lot further along than me. I can't do an F chord.
Are you trying to?
No, not really.
There you go.
I picked up a secondhand guitar during lockdown. I gave it, I don't know, a few weeks. Turned out I wasn't naturally talented and I would actually have to practice, and then I gave up.
Yeah. That's
Sorry.
I basically did the same thing, but I got lucky because I bought a guitar because I'm trying to write a song, and then I meet a guitar friend. I'm like,
Right.
ooh,
Okay.
okay. I play bass the way I like, the normal, and then you play guitar.
Nice. Okay.
And then he disappears, and then after a year or something, I was like, oh, come on. Now I've got to practice your difficult thing. Originally, it was just the chords. Now it's all the twiddly bits.
Now you're making me work? Dang it.
That took many years. I mean, honestly, it's not even like you have to study for so long to know everything.
Yeah.
It's the time and this very specific way to touch the strings and make a sound. If you're a jazz player or a metal player, you are lost when you switch genre. It doesn't matter how good you are, because you have to then just the way the pick is in your fingers is slightly different, and then you got to get used to it.
Right. Okay.
And there's no other way except to just get involved for long enough.
Yeah.
And then it becomes part of your natural, so you don't act. It's just like driving. Eventually you don't. When did the last time you changed gear? You don't care.
You don't think about it.
You just do it when it's necessary.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But to a newbie, that's like,
yes.
What is this sorcery?
You'll be counting down the revs on the counter. Yeah. All of a sudden, 3,500. Right, time to change to third. Yeah.
So it's a case of like, you've got to pick what you want to do, because you really don't have forever to do everything you want to do.
Do you like live music? Do you sort of enjoy going to local gigs and things? Because I know a few musicians who, I know one musician who can't get enough of live music. He, in order to create anything, he has to take creation in to sort of like, feed his reserve of creativity. Right. There's another guy who can't stand going to see live music because he'll pick it apart and analyze it as a musician. Where do you stand on that? Do you dislike it?
I love live music if it's done well.
Okay.
That might mean, because I've done a lot myself live.
Yeah.
So the basics would be the band's playing well because they can hear each other and all that stuff. There's no issues on stage. But then also the amplification of the sound could completely destroy the experience.
Yes.
So, recently I went to a gig and it was in one of those standard places in Camden.
Right, Camden Market.
Camden Market area, yeah. And the band I know very well, amazing music, love it. But when I was there, I forgot to bring earplugs or anything.
Okay.
And I was getting battered. Every kick was
really?
Pushing me to the back of the wall.
Right.
It's like, this is so unbelievably loud.
Yeah.
How can any of you be in here?
Yeah.
This is crazy.
Yeah.
I was hiding in the corner trying to get the sound waves past me.
Dodging the sound waves.
Yeah. It was ridiculous.
Oh, man.
I had to go to near the front exit door and just sort of peek my head like that so I could hear the song without it being too loud.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the hell those sound guys are doing. There's something going on that either they just don't like the people who are coming, so let's make them deaf. Or they themselves aren't checking. Or they
just have really bad hearing and need it to be as loud as possible.
Yeah. No one's actually checking. Like, how does it sound for people?
Yeah.
I don't get that.
Yeah.
That annoys me.
Yeah, fair enough.
But I would love, many other gigs I've been to weren't too loud and they were fantastic. I can still remember being there many years later. But then when it comes to festivals and those giant ones, they're nice to watch, recorded, but
the actual experience of being there is not your bag. I've never really been to a big festival. I've never been to Glastonbury or Reading or anything like that. The idea of just the mess, the inconvenience, the crowdedness doesn't appeal to me. But I love going to my local pub in Shepperton has a lot of, they've got a live jazz band, they've got some rock and roll bands that come along, and I love that small local level of stuff. But similarly, in terms of the sound production quality, I've done, just as a hobby, I've done a little bit of sound engineering for a couple of local live events, a couple of bands, a comedian, that sort of thing. And yeah, if it's not done right, if I sort of go to a venue and you can, let's say the band is their own sound producer, so they've got their little mixing desk on the stage with them, and they're only listening to it through foldback monitors rather than what the crowd is hearing, I can spend an entire evening at my local pub going, needs more treble, the bass is too loud, the guitarist's too quiet, can't hear the vocalist. And it's like, obviously you can't interrupt. You can't just walk up to these people and say, excuse me, I know what I'm doing. Do you mind if I have a little tweak? But that's constantly what I'm thinking.
Yeah. I know. That's basically where I stand.
Yeah, fair enough. Glad it's not just me.
Yeah.
I was going to talk about this mic.
SM7B.
SM7B.
Should I get another one? I need two at least.
Okay.
Because I want one for the other side.
Yeah, do it. You can never have enough mics.
No, exactly. But should it be a 7B? Because the thing is, it is great. I love the sound for podcasting and everything else I can use it for. But it's surely, since then, there's a better podcast mic.
Define better. It's all up to personal taste, isn't it?
How can it still be so good and so perfect?
Yeah.
For modern podcasting,
Yeah.
It is the podcast mic, but why? Why is it so hard to improve on it? Maybe it's just perfect.
Maybe it is. Maybe Shaw just really know how to make good mics. So this is hold there a minute. I brought one of my mics along just for display purposes. So this is, I'd love to see inside this. You can't actually see inside. That is a Rode NT1A large, I always get this the wrong way around. Large diaphragm condenser. I always want to say large condensing diaphragm. It's not. So the little diaphragm that sits inside there, you can actually see it through the mesh, is flat. It faces forwards. And therefore you speak into this upright. And it has a cardioid pattern, if we're getting techie. So it picks up sound like that, mainly from in front of it, so that it doesn't pick up anything from the back. And you can really notice that if you sort of have this plugged in and you move around it, as soon as you can't, and then it gets louder, and then whereas this is all just coming directly from in front. How directional is that? If you picture the bubble of pickup, how directional is this mic?
It's pretty close to what you just described, except the front of that is there basically.
Okay, so it's the same.
So you can, if you try and sing around the sides, it gets quiet.
Okay.
But I have to look at the inside of it.
Yeah. But there's I'm not that technically knowledgeable on microphones. I just know what I've used and what I like. But there's for every voice, there's there's an ideal mic and there's an ideal space. So I've got quite a sort of a mid to low level voice. If someone else came and used my recording space and my microphone, it might not sound right, because the mic I use is quite good for lower voices. It has a nice bass range to it. Every space you're in, every room you're in has a harmonic resonance. So if you were to sweep up and down the vocal range, there's every room you're in, there's one point, there's one note that really reverberates. So the space I record in is perfect for my voice. Someone with a higher voice might come in and find themselves getting reverb all over the shop, So everything is so bespoke and so tailored to your own needs. I've gone through a dozen microphones that I've sort of picked up here and there or borrowed from friends until I found the one that suits my voice well. And although I have this, it's a Neumann U87, sorry, that happens to be the one that works best with my voice. So there's an incredible range. Sadly, they happen to be very expensive.
Yes.
Which is a shame.
I know.
But this is sort of a good all-rounder for anyone to come in and sit down and use, and it just kind of, it has a broad range that works with all different types of voices, presumably.
Yeah. I think it's partly the form factor and just the design.
Right.
Because, I mean, the microphone itself is great, but it's so practical. The swept back cable is out the way, and it's so easy to mount. And I don't know, it's just, how can you beat it? Because I have a very similar one to your Rode.
Yeah.
I've got NT1, which is the black edition.
Yeah.
But it needs to sit in a shock mount. Yeah, in a shock mount.
Yeah.
So it's just suddenly it needs all this space and all this respect. And
yes, exactly. Yeah.
So podcasting is just silly. So anyway,
the right tools for the job, isn't it?
I am in the market for another 7B, at least one more for now.
Okay.
And I don't know if I should just do it or maybe someone in the comments can help me. Try and give me the best advice for the 7B. Should I get the same thing again? Should I get something different? Maybe I should go more in depth and get all of them and try them all. We're not there yet, but it might happen.
Man after my own heart.
I'm either going to start the video by saying, this item was purchased for the sake of review, or this item was sent to me for the sake of review. We'll see which one it is.
Get sponsorships. Yeah, let's have a little battle between Shure and Sennheiser going on. See who can send you the most appropriate mic. Yes.
And also, actually, we are currently doing the test because I'm wearing the Sony UWP or DWP. I'll change it later, whichever it is.
Department of Work and Pensions.
The wireless Sony mic, lav mic. So there is very likely to be a difference in sound between you and me. So that's another interesting test this time.
Yeah.
I was actually pretty ready to just get the other 7B arrive yesterday, so I can use it today for one each. But I thought, actually, I kind of don't need to rush. We might as well just try it this way and see how is it really fine.
Yeah.
So there's that too.
There's it's probably a completely wrong a wrong point of view, but for my money, I always think, how on earth can a little, the thing you're using at the moment under your shirt, it's a tiny little lavalier mic, whereas this thing is bigger. Surely the bigger it is, the better it's going to sound. That's the way my brain works. But it'll be interesting to hear the results afterwards to see what the difference is.
Definitely. I very much look forward to that.
And then there's I noticed you've got one. I'm thinking of buying one, a Rode video mic, the little mic that just sort of sits atop your shoe mount on the camera, or even you can get them with a micro USB that it plugs straight into your mobile phone for easy podcasting. Again, it just looks so small and flimsy, but I'm told by other people they give off they make a really good recording. So it's like a child in a sweet shop, isn't it? There are so many options.
Yeah, exactly.
So many mics, so little time, so little budget.
Simon Wells, it's been wonderful to have you.
Thank you for having me, Andrew. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. You've been the first of hopefully many, and hopefully it's not the first time. Hopefully it's not the last time.
Definitely, I'll come back anytime. This has been an absolute blast. So thank you.
My pleasure.